Our speaker this morning is Lilian Rizek. Lilian is a four-year boarding student from Davidsonville, Maryland. This is her third year in Robbins dorms and her second year living there as a prefect with her roommate, Ruth Ann Sander. She's speaking today as part of our LGBTQ+ Courageous Conversations Week. Lilian?
One of the greatest things I've learned in the last 4 years is self-acceptance. At Hill, many people work nonstop to foster an environment of acceptance on campus. Student groups, committees, and individual advocates. We have groups like HISOGI, the SAMH Committee, and DEI. This week is Courageous Conversations Week for LGBTQIA+ identities. One goal is to highlight the importance of accepting and supporting others for who they are. Though we focus on accepting one another, I worry that sometimes we lose sight of a key component to our well-being and success, accepting ourselves. When I arrived at Hill in 2018, I was part of the cross-country team. I loved cross-country, and running for Hill was something I took pride in. I haven't forgotten the joy I felt at the end of a strong race. However, over the course of the fall, I developed chronic knee pain that wouldn't go away. I continued to run in the winter, working with the trainers to stay active without my pain worsening. Eventually, though, my knees were in so much pain that I was practically dragging myself upstairs to my room each night. And yet, I still signed up for spring track and tried running right away, knowing my knees hurt. When spring practice started, I was forced to acknowledge what I'd tried to avoid for so long. I couldn't run that term. I needed to let myself heal and avoid putting myself in more pain. And I knew a break would help me physically and mentally. I switched into theater tech, and I immediately noticed a difference in my mood. I had given myself permission to take the time I needed and do something else that I could enjoy. Without noticing it, I had accepted what my body was telling me, and I'd responded. Stopping my attempts to run helped. I worked on that show, Peter and the Starcatcher, and I managed to stay active without aggravating my knees. I remember climbing around the set, working on the stairs and the crow's nest, and enjoying the opportunity to move around and contribute to something that I saw as being so cool. Eventually, though, my leg pain did worsen. As I entered fourth form year, it got to the point that I didn't have to be walking to be in pain. In addition, I started experiencing migraines. That year, I received a diagnosis for my muscle condition and spent almost 5 months in physical therapy. And around this time last year, my migraines worsened and I began experiencing motor tics, and I received diagnoses regarding each. If you don't know, a motor tic is a type of involuntary movement, a muscle contraction that is similar to a spasm in appearance. For me, they became one more in the list of painful hurdles that I faced each day. Just like my migraines, my muscle condition, my motor tics have their own triggers that set off an episode, and like a hurdler, I spent my days trying to avoid those triggers until there's one I don't see and I have a tic attack, a muscle flare-up, or the beginning of a migraine. When I received diagnoses for my muscle and migraine conditions, I was grateful for an answer to the problems, but I was also scared and upset. I was given papers listing things that may somewhat alleviate the pain, but the conditions themselves were going to stay. I had been frustrated to be limited in what I could do, but I eventually realized that it is more beneficial if I do what I can when I'm able and ask for help when I cannot. Frustration with my limitations doesn't change the fact that pushing them results in pain, either flaring up my arms or around my knees. I dove into theater, trying to work through my feelings about the diagnoses. During Chicago, I faced my muscle condition and operated the moving stage. I couldn't walk around much some days, and I missed a lot of rehearsals for PT, so it was a perfect job. During Hairspray, my PT was helping, and I was the props master, back and forth keeping track of everything. Since then, I've stayed busy. Our online shows required less physical activity, but show day and Into the Woods kept me plenty active. Theater has not only kept me active, but given me a chance to learn about my triggers. Carrying props and set pieces, I was able to learn certain movements that make my shoulder or knees hurt more. Going into the shop when power tools are being used may trigger a tick attack, same as leaf blower or lawn mowers when I'm outside or in the dorm, and I adjust with ear protection or earbuds. Similarly, light and sound affect my migraines, but I've learned to manage those triggers as well. Yes, I'm experiencing a negative impact the first time I do each of these things, but I catch on quickly, and it has helped me with what I do when I'm in other settings. Over the course of these last few years, though I learned more about my muscle and migraine conditions, I still felt there was something I was missing. Scrolling social media or walking around campus, I sometimes felt this heaviness in my chest, like I was faking something. I figured out what it was pretty quickly, though I spent a while trying to convince myself otherwise. Sometimes reality can scare us at first, though acknowledging it can make it better, as I learned with my muscle condition. As I realized the relief I felt from acknowledging my conditions and the limitations they imposed, I decided to consider this thought. I think I told a friend from home first. I think I'm non-binary. Okay, cool. What pronouns should I use for you? Supportive friends made all the difference. I have 3 friends in my life who I was nervous to tell. 2 of them said, okay, sounds good. And the other noticed the change to the pronouns in my Instagram bio before I found what I thought to be a good time to tell her. Anyway, I'm non-binary. I prefer they, them pronouns, but I am okay with pronouns like she, her, or he, him. For me, being non-binary is fluid, not being strictly female and not having my identity fit into a clear box. It took a while for me to realize this. Part of my realization was a sort of discomfort in my skin and a heaviness in my chest. But with my muscle pain and my asthma, I just kept pretending it was those. When I finally accepted that there was something more, it clicked immediately, as if I just needed to stop hiding from myself in order to, well, be myself. Once I realized that I was non-binary, I didn't do much about it for a while. Eventually, I changed my pronouns on Instagram, my main social media. Later on, I swapped the order from she, they to they, she. That switch just tells others that I prefer they, them pronouns over she, her, but I use both. Taking a moment to see how I feel before I start my day is something I've been doing since 3rd form year. Back then, I would stretch my legs, what I called waking up my knee, so that I could stand when I got out of bed. Last year, I added in stretching my shoulders and wrists. If my shoulder is sore in the morning and I continue to move, it'll only get worse. Now, when I'm starting my day, I take a moment to see how I'm feeling, how I want to present. Sometimes I dress solely for comfort, especially if my shoulder or legs hurt a lot, but most of my clothes accommodate that anyway. The way I present is for me. I dress in a way that is often feminine, but depending on how I feel on a given day, I may make small differences to feel more confident in my skin. Really quickly, for anyone who may not be familiar with they, them pronouns, I want to go over a short example. Using they, them pronouns for a single individual can be understood with a quick Google search. I want to highlight an example using the pronouns they, them, and their in a similar sentence with she, her, hers pronouns. Blair thought they left their bag here, but we can't find it. I'm helping them look. Alex thought she left her bag here, but it's not. I'm helping her look. If you have any questions about how to use these pronouns, consider bringing them up during our conversations and advisory tomorrow. Alternatively, make use of the internet and search the topic you're confused about. You can email me to have a respectful conversation about pronouns or LGBTQ+ identities if you have certain questions. When I got here 3 years ago, I didn't feel this kind of comfort being myself. I felt trapped, stuck. I sometimes wonder if that motivated me in cross country. I remember feeling so at peace when I was running, as if I had outrun my discomfort. When I stopped running, I learned to face my body, my muscle pains, my migraines, and who I am. I learned that I ought to get to a place of being comfortable and confident, and I went through the steps needed to get to a place where I do. I may have pain in my muscles and my migraines, but I'm comfortable in my body, and I'm glad I got there because I feel really happy now.